Now, London's Mayor Sadiq Khan is to press on with plans for an ultra-low emission zone, despite a legal challenge being allowed to proceed in the High Court later this year.
5 Conservative-led borough councils have sought to block the expansion of the zone, which is unpopular amongst many drivers in the suburbs.
The ULEZ charge, which is aimed at reducing air pollution by charging drivers of older vehicles, will be expanded from inner boroughs to the whole of Greater London in August. Here's what the Mayor had to say when asked about the legal challenge yesterday.
Well, I think it's really important for these Conservative councillors who've got concerns if they want to challenge this in the courts, to be able to do so. I think it's a waste of taxpayers' money. Local residents would rather these be used on the libraries, but, I welcome the fact that the vast majority of their grounds have been thrown out of the court. The 2 minor grounds will be heard by a court in a couple of months, and TfL will be robustly defending this case. I want to see improved air in all parts of London, particularly those 5 million Londoners in outer London who are currently breathing air that is leading to children with stunted lungs, adults with a whole host of health issues from asthma to cancer, dementia to heart disease, but also the 10 boroughs with the biggest number of premature deaths caused by air pollution are in outer London. I want to clean up our air sooner rather than later. It's, for me, a human right rather than a privilege.
Well, we're now joined by Howard Cox, founder of Fairfuel UK, who'll be speaking at that anti-ULEZ protest later on. I don't know if you wanted to pass any comment there to what Sadiq Khan had to say.
I'm sorry, I'd have to use a lot of 4-letter words. I mean, it's unbelievable, this man. He's so dishonest. It's unbelievable. He's putting together a programme of hitting people in the pocket that will not make one iota of difference to the air we breathe. None whatsoever, but he's going to make a shed load of cash out of it by fleecing motorists. And something like, we did a survey at Fairfield UK, and 1 in 3 sole traders said they're not going to trade in London anymore. And it's ludicrous what he's trying to do.
So, I mean, if we take at face value the fact that the Mayor of London wants to improve the air quality for people in inner London and outer London, what should he be doing instead of this?
Well, I think he needs a better road transport strategy for a start. He's actually been responsible for actually making more congestion and potentially more pollution by low traffic neighbourhoods introduction, massive cycle lanes. There's one cycle lane in London, you can get an HGV truck down it, and only one cyclist I saw using it. These are the sorts of stupid things he's putting in place. And what is really, I don't understand, is that he had a public consultation process, which 2 out of 3 people objected to his ULEZ expansion. He ignored that. 5,000 of my supporters actually took part in this consultation, and he's ignored them. He's dumped them. And he also lied to the London Assembly beforehand, because he actually ordered the cameras before the public consultation agreement.
Yes.
How can you trust a politician like that?
And that really was part of the judicial review, wasn't it? He didn't follow the correct procedure. He hadn't done that consultation on a scrappage scheme. He was determined to do something, whether the facts fitted it at all. So, today at the protest, you'll be there, you'll be speaking. Who else will be joining you?
Well, Sean Bailey will be talking. I understand. I think you might be picking up on the live feed later on. I think Ian Duncan-Smith might be there, but it's being run by the Together Declaration Group, who really are actually all for freedom and freedom of choice and that sort of thing. And I'm backing them to the hilt. We hope to have 3,000 or 4,000 people there. And I'm sorry to say about this, but I'm really going to say to Sadiq Khan, why don't you come along to it and show to these 3,000 or 4,000 that you're right.
Now, presumably the courts can't force the policy to be changed. They can only make sure that the process that's followed is a lawful process. So you can't rely on the courts to overturn the decision. But what chance do you think there is that the Mayor will back down over this and change the policy? Do you see any hope that he might do that?
I personally think what he might do is actually delay it until after next year's election. The London mayoral elections are actually in May next year, so we're only just over a year away from that. And there's a lot of people that actually are standing on an anti-ULEZ ticket. And that sort of thing. And fundamentally, what he should be doing is actually talking with the Transport Minister, talking with the government and saying, am I doing the right thing? Because we mustn't forget, this particular type of policy is being watched and even introduced all across the country. And we're seeing...
But yes, you're quite right, being introduced across the country. Can I ask you a question? You might be able to answer it, because I obviously follow what people are saying online. Is it the cash because it is the cost, and I've seen the cost, and it is absolutely prohibitive. You know, if you don't have much money and you've got an older car, it is prohibitive. But people are also complaining about the cameras and the observation of behaviours. Which one is it that is the worst? The cameras, the observation, or the cost?
I think I tick all of the above, to be honest, Esther. I think the cash thing is a serious thing, for particularly it's a regressive sort of tax. It hits low-income families, small businesses. As I said to you, 1 in 3 sole traders aren't going to come to London anymore just to go and get a quote, which they might not get, but they've had to pay £12.50 for the privilege of just finding out whether they've got the business or not. In terms of all the other things in terms of this, in the Big Brother bit, I think that's going to escalate even more when people realise what it's about. And that's why a lot of people now, and I don't advocate this, are damaging the cameras that are in place now. They're putting styrofoam, they're putting all sorts of things over them to ruin them. And don't forget, he spent 150 million on the cameras to get 200 million of actually income from the actual scheme itself. So I'm sorry to say that, you know...
£50 million on cameras.
Gosh. Anyway, Howard Cox, Director of Fairfield UK, thanks ever so much for joining us, and we'll follow the progress of the demonstration this afternoon on GB News.
I can't get over that.